Fed up of floor robes, driven to distraction and drowning with doom boxes? Tired of living in chaos? Welcome to Decluttering Untangled, how to declutter when you're overwhelmed, ADHD or autistic. I'm going to help you uncover the secrets to decluttering, no matter what hurdles you face. You'll discover how to declutter, de-stress and transform your world. I'm Heather Tingle, reformed hoarder, neurodivergent declutter queen, and your guide through the maze of mess. Let's get untangled. Hello Untanglers, and welcome to another episode of Decluttering Untangled with me, your host, Heather Tingle. In today's episode, I want to discuss something I'm sure you and my decluttering colleagues will find rather controversial, and that is the practice of taking photos of items that you're giving away or letting go. This is because there seems to be a growing trend, which means you take a photo of the item to be able to let go of it, and it makes it easier to let that item go because you've still got the photo. Now, I want to discuss the positives and the negatives of doing this, as it seems to be used so much as a way to encourage people to let go of items in what feels like a safe way. But actually, is it helpful, or are you just replacing one form of clutter for another? Now, the reason why I'm saying it's controversial is because I think generally it is a terrible idea. It is not something I encourage my clients to do. If they want to do it, that's totally okay. Like what works for some people doesn't work for others. And I'm not saying that my way is totally the right way to go for everybody, because it isn't. But I would like you to be a bit more considerate if you are going to use this as a strategy. Now, the first question I want you to ask yourself when you consider this is, if you have to take a photo of the item, are you actually really ready to let it go? Because by taking the photo, you are not severing ties with the item. You're not fully removing it from your life. And in my eyes, all you're actually doing is postponing the loss you feel when it goes. So are you really ready for that loss? Because if you're not ready for that loss, you shouldn't be letting go of the item, full stop. And I think the other thing to consider really is the cost of clutter is determined by the space you've got available to you. And we tend to think about the physical space we gain by letting an item go. But what about the digital clutter we then accumulate? Like, this does still have ramifications. So not only for the planet, and I'm going to tell you a few statistics. Now, I've taken this from a blog on crystal.io. So thank you to a lady called Charlotte who wrote this blog. The average smartphone user has 2,700 photos stored. Now that's average. Obviously it doesn't include us lot. So over a typical 10-year storage period, which for us, that's pretty usual, these photos could consume approximately 94.5 kilowatt hours of energy in the cloud. That's enough to power an average UK household for 3 days. Run a fridge freezer for 3 months, drive an electric car for nearly 300 miles. So, I mean, they're quite shocking statistics, and that's only like 2,000 something hundred photos. Like, a lot of us have a lot more photos than that. Like, how many times have you upgraded your phone storage? Each time you get a new phone, you get a new upgrade. Do you then upgrade the storage facility on it because you're fed up of your phone getting too full? I'll put my hand up to that one. So you might think that replacing an item in your home with a photo is being all green and eco-friendly, but actually, is it really? The answer is no, it's not. But not only that, like that's big world, which, a lot of us, it's got to practically actually impact us in real life day to day for it to actually really, I don't know what the word is, but like impact on our psyche. So let's look at the real life practicalities of it. In our world, in real life terms, our phone can get full. We have to pay for extra cloud storage, for example. Like, I still don't understand the cloud. I'm totally honest. I'm a Neanderthal when it comes to this tech stuff. But I do pay for extra cloud storage because, if I'm honest, I'm not 100% certain how to undo the cloud storage. Like, so having less things on your phone, in theory, this is my take on it, means less cloud storage. So the less things you've got on your phone, the less things it has to back up in the cloud. That sound about right? But we can struggle to find a photo where we want it because we've got that many things on our phone. We do a search and we can't find it. And I also want you to think about, how would you feel if your phone dies or it gets lost and all your photos have gone, including the one that you've just took of that item you're about to let go of? Now, from a personal point of view, because this has happened to me previously, before the cloud, I think you will feel the loss much worse if that happens, rather than the letting go of the item in the first place. Because when you let go of an item, you choose to let go of that item, that is in your control. But the photo disappearing or being corrupted or inaccessible isn't in your control, and that can really feel so much more traumatic. So you've got to ask yourself, are you ready to let that item go? And is the photo a replacement for letting it go? Are you just replacing the item for a different item? And how would you feel if something happened to that photo? So be like, well, okay, Heather, you're being really quite negative about this. Actually, what's the right way of doing things? Now, I do think that there is a time and a place to take photos of items you're letting go of. So I would like you to think about how important it is, but then I would like you to consider putting items in the donate pile and then leaving it a little bit to see if you really do need to take that photo in the first place. Is that so important you would get it back out of that donate pile to take a photo of it? Ensure that you are fully ready to let the item go, because if you are not sure, then you keep it. I have always said this is something that I am quite different probably from my colleagues on, in that if you are not sure about an item, you need to keep it because you don't want to end up with regrets. Now, I also think you need to be really selective about what you're taking photos of. So maybe set yourself a limit and be mega selective about using this strategy. So, for example, a doll's house that your grandparents made, which is now rusty, mouldy, and can't be rescued. For me, that makes sense to take a photo of it because it was such a big part of your childhood. It's such a physically big thing, and it is not rescuable. That makes sense to take a photo of it. But regular things like cards or books or clothes, honestly, probably not so much. So I want you to ask yourself, and I think this is really important, ask yourself what you're going to do with the photo once you've taken it. Will it have its own folder? Will you back it up somewhere? Or will you do something with the photo, which is what I would really like you to do. So rather than having a million photos randomly on your phone to add to all the screenshots you thought you'd look back on later but never do, I'd like you to create an alternative item with that photo. So either print it out and put it in an album, or write on the details on the back of why it was important to you. So this does two things. It doesn't just become redundant digital clutter. It means that if you have to go through the trouble of doing something with it to tell the story of that item, you're going to go to the trouble to actually make that happen. And that to me means then it's really important for you to take the photo in the first place. So you get a Heather says it's okay moment, a HSIO, to do that, because it was obviously important for you to go through all that effort and energy to do something with that photo. It also means that you've got a physical object that you can pass on to future generations, which, let's face it, they're not going to be bothered about, but you can revisit that item. It isn't going to just be digital clutter on a phone. It's going to be replacing one item for another. Now, that only works, obviously, if the physical item that you are creating to store that memory is smaller than the item you're replacing. But what happens if it's not smaller? Honestly, I think it's okay, because you are replacing one item with another, like one in, one out. That is okay. And if you're ready to let that item go, then it can be a nice way to honour the memories. But you've got to do something with it, not just take a photo and then it stay on your phone forever and ever, not doing anything happening with it. So you do get a Heather says it's okay moment to take the photo if it is really important, if you've really, really thought about it. And I hope that has given you some things to think about today. Now, do let me know if you've used this strategy to be able to let things go in the past and how you got on with it. Have you looked at that photo since you took the photo? Have you done anything with the photo? Or has it just totally been forgotten about and left as another piece of digital clutter on your phone? And also let me know if now, because of this podcast, you are currently deleting a million screenshots you'd totally forgotten about too. So until next time, remember you're not alone, be kind to yourself and keep untangling. Thanks for joining me for today's episode of Decluttering Untangled. If you found anything that I've said today helpful, please do me a favour, hit that subscribe button or leave me a review. It's like receiving a virtual high five that keeps me going and lets me know that I'm helping real people out there and I'm making a difference. Please remember, you're not alone in this. I'm building a community of fellow untanglers over on Facebook. Just visit the show notes for the link to my free decluttering community. So until next time, remember, you're not alone, you're not lazy, you can untangle your life.